You know, when we think about the history of a great city, we usually focus on the big landmarks or the famous, powerful figures. But this is about the people who are the city. We're going to take a look at the Schaffner McKnew family. They were native San Franciscans, and their personal story of love, loss, and resilience is really the story of San Francisco itself.
Okay, so I want you to picture this. It's April 1906. San Francisco is this bustling, vibrant metropolis, and then it's hit by a massive earthquake. And it doesn't stop there. For 3 straight days, fires just raged through the streets, destroying huge parts of the city, leaving thousands and thousands of people with nothing. It was, without a doubt, the city's darkest hour.
And yet, in the middle of all that chaos, with the city literally still smoldering, something pretty remarkable happens. Just 2 months after the disaster, Paul Schaffner and Edna McKnew decided to get married. I mean, think about that for a second. What an incredible act of optimism. It was like a defiant bet on the future, both for their city and for themselves, right there in the heart of the ruins.
So who were these two people? What kind of people decide to build a future when their entire world has just turned to ash? Well, let's get to know them. Paul and Edna came from 2 really different San Francisco worlds, and their story of coming together is a fascinating one.
On one hand, you had Paul. He came from a solid middle-class background. His dad had a respectable job, a grand secretary in a fraternal order, so Paul and his brothers were on that kind of white-collar track. Then you have Edna. Her world was completely different. She grew up in this huge, bustling, working-class family. She had 10 siblings. By the time she was 16, she was already a skilled milliner, making her own way in the world. So you've got these 2 very different San Francisco stories about to become one.
So after saying I do, Paul and Edna got right to work, building a life from the ground up. And at the heart of it all was a home that would become their family's anchor for generations to come, their house on Rivoli Street.
Their life together really took shape fast. For the first few years, they lived with Paul's dad, which was pretty common back then, for families to support each other. Pretty soon they had 2 daughters. All the while, Paul was moving up the ranks at the Valvoline Oil Company. And then, by 1920, they hit this huge milestone. They bought their own home at 46 Rivoli Street, an address that would mean so much to their family for decades.
By 1930, they owned that home, and it was valued at $10,000. Now, to put that into perspective, this was right in the middle of the Great Depression. Owning a home of that value wasn't just some accomplishment, it was this powerful symbol of the stability and the life they had so carefully built together.
Paul wasn't just a provider for his family, though. He was a real pillar of his community. But just when their life seemed the most secure, their story takes this sudden, tragic turn.
He was a respected manager at his job, and just like his father, he was really involved in fraternal organizations. We're talking master of his Masonic Lodge, a member of the Scottish Rite, the Shriners. These were groups dedicated to charity and community. He was, in short, a guy who was woven right into the civic fabric of San Francisco.
And then, in May of 1934, at just 55 years old, Paul died from heart disease. His obituary described it as sudden, a shock. You can just imagine the devastation for his family and the whole community he served. In an instant, that stable world he'd worked so hard to build was just completely changed. So there was Edna, a widow at 50 years old, but her story was far, far from over. In fact, this loss marked the beginning of her most important role, becoming the beloved matriarch of her growing family. And wow, what a life she lived! Edna made it all the way to 90 years old. She actually outlived her husband by 40 years. For 4 decades, she carried on, anchoring the family they had started together all those years ago in the ruins of the old city.
And in those years, her grandchildren gave her this wonderful nickname, Oohoo. Why? Well, it came from the way she would always call out yoo-hoo to greet them at the door of the Rivoli Street house. It's just a small detail, but it perfectly captures her warm, welcoming spirit, doesn't it?
Her family remembered her for the simple, beautiful things, her kindness, her happy nature, her total devotion. They talked about the delicate Cecil Brunner roses she grew in her garden that she would always bring on visits. And for 63 years, she stayed a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, quietly continuing that life of service she and Paul had once shared.
When you look at it all, this one family's personal journey really does mirror the larger story of their city. It's just this incredible testament to resilience, to community, and to the power of simply enduring.
That home at 46 Rivoli Street, it was the constant. It was the anchor for 3 whole different eras of the family. First, for Paul and Edna as they were building their life. Then, for their daughter Muriel's family after Paul passed away. And finally, it was the home of Uhu, the matriarch who held it all together until she died in 1974.
So in the end, the Schaffner-McKnew story is so much more than just dates and names. It's this powerful reminder that real history, it's built from the ground up. It's made by ordinary people who work hard, love their families, serve their neighbors, and face both joy and tragedy with this incredible, enduring strength.
You know, we all have these stories in our own families. These moments of love, of resilience, of hope. They might not make it into the history books, but they're the real foundation of our own legacies. So the last question is for you. What are the ordinary stories that make your family's history extraordinary?